So today I'm going to talk about quite a few unsettling things. If you are an individual who is easily triggered, I recommend you either stop watching or prepare yourself. I apologize, I'm cold right now, so I'm all cozied up in my blanket. Ruby on my lap, so don't mind us if she moves or if I have to adjust. I'm also doing this without a written or prepared speech off the top of my head. One of the last videos that I did last year had been pre-written, and due to a lot of factors in my life, there are certain individuals who may have thought that it was a script. It was not. I just need time to prepare my thoughts when I discuss things. And I had at the time been homeless, temporarily homeless. I was in a rental car at that point. And the reason I had been homeless is because of some things that I'm going to talk about in a minute. But I just wanted to kind of start off by letting you know this more relaxed. This is pretty much what I'm like. It might take me some time to pull stuff from my memory banks to discuss it. I prefer to be prepared with written speeches and notes and research, but right now this is too important to do that. I really just need to discuss it out front. And to be honest, I've been trying for over a year now to discuss this, bring this out in the open, and unfortunately things have not necessarily happened. So a better way than to just come out in the open and discuss things. So my name's Jen. I am a chronically ill individual that has little bearing to what I'm going to discuss, but it's important to note, as a lot of people who had previously been in my life were unaware of the fact that until about age 8.5, I had not lived in central New Jersey. I had not lived in Hunterdon County. I lived in Ocean County, in a town called New Egypt. And from near infancy, I'd say maybe 7 or 8 months old. My mom says 8 months, but who knows if I had issues before then, she didn't notice. From 8 months old until, I want to say 2.5, 3 years old, apparently I was treated in a children's hospital. They had at the time diagnosed me with myoclonic seizure. The reason I mention this is, while they couldn't find evidence, and they did a spinal tap which was then lost and decided not to do another one, I have since had similar issues, once when I was 8 years old, and then more recently since 2016. However, they aren't seizures. They happen when I'm cold, and it makes me wonder if in infancy that was the same problem I was having, which is why, again, I'm all bundled up in the blanket. I'm sitting on the floor right next to the vent. It's nice and warm. In the winter time, I need to be at like 72, 73 degrees, or else I start having these muscle spasms, uncontrollable flailing. It has happened once in the summer, but and sometimes at night, but that's not what I'm here to talk about today. I mention that because if anybody happens to remember me from 1986, 87, 88, I could really use your help. I have a lot of other health issues, but that's neither here nor there. This isn't about me. So I apologize if it seems like it's about me. I'm not, my health does come into play later in this, and I do apologize because there is no excuse. That'll make sense in a bit. So, the reason I was homeless last year was I had been temporarily living with my mother post-divorce, and it was, I'm not going to discuss my marriage, I'm not going to get into details, but basically, not many people realize this, I've been very, very sick for quite some time, and one of the issues I have is I burn nearly 7,000 calories a day, sometimes more than 7,000 calories a day, supposedly. I lost 65 pounds in less than 6 months, but I would spend the majority of my time eating, and all of my money was going to food and my medical cannabis so that I could eat. So I was living at my mom's, I was making a decent salary, but almost all of my income was going to food and medicine. When I moved in with her, I didn't realize what was going on with her husband. Had I known, I would have lived in my car. I did not know. And it took me quite some time to figure out what to do. Again, there's no excuse. However, I had come from a really not the greatest situation, and then immediately jumped into living with my mom, which was also not the greatest situation. A lot of people don't know my mom, or know the real her. Eventually they will. But anyway, so my mom and her husband are, he is a co-pastor, and she is a church treasurer at a church that is, at one point I believe my mom gave the statistic, something like 93% minorities and 7% Caucasian. Now, I don't know the specific breakdown of what she considers minorities, but I believe it's a primarily Latinx and Hispanic church. I have not attended. There may be black individuals, I don't know. I have not been to this facility, or if not facility, I've not been to her church. So I've met several of her, several congregation members, and they're absolutely lovely. And I appreciate the time they've spent with me, but I don't know who else goes to the church. Anyway, so I didn't know this for quite some time, but I didn't know until I did 23andMe. Apparently I'm Hispanic. I was raised as white. It's from my father's side, not my mother. My mother and her husband are both, well, I had called them out on racism, which I had witnessed over the course of the 2 years I'm living with them. And that is something that will, again, be discussed in a later video, not right now, because this video is not about her, and this video is not about me. But it's important to note just how deep white supremacy runs, its roots, and that we really need to work on fixing this. So I had brought some things to her attention about her racism, her husband's racism, specifically because what I noticed was every time they would come home from church, they would start trash talking their congregation, and it always had to do with them being Latinx, them speaking Spanish instead of English, things they would say about immigration, and how the media uses the word immigrant to confuse and conflate and make people not believe that these are illegals, which blew my mind because these are people that we're talking about, human beings. So I had brought up some things to their attention. I actually had recorded a conversation immediately after they came home from church last August, because I was noticing these conversations, like right after church, just tearing into their congregation, whether they realized it or not, almost like these were people there for their entertainment. And so they had walked in the door, and the question I asked was, "How was church?" And her husband's response was, it was good for the white people." I said, "Excuse me?" "For the white people, it was good. There were so many Spanish people, I felt like I was in the Caribbean." And I looked at him, I'm like, "You do realize that is a racist comment?" And he just shut up and immediately stopped talking. Left my mom to defend him. From that point on, I was like, I can't live here. I had to do something. I made a post on Instagram about it. I moved out. I made a video about something else entirely, but did mention in the description about what was going on and linked to the Instagram post. I had reached out to NBC News, Sean King, and From Privilege to Progress. No one seemed to care to discuss the things. There are other things, but again, that'll be discussed eventually one day in court. Over the course of the last year, there had been people stalking me. There had been individuals not understanding the situation, not understanding my previous relationship with my mom and her narcissistic tendencies, her tendency to make everything about her, because that's exactly what happened. She would deflect discussions about her racism and say that it was about me not loving her. And then say, everything was God's will, and it's just kind of like, no, you can't, you need to address your issues. She started calling the cops on me for posting selfies. I've tried to file police reports for other actual crimes, but her calling the police on me so frequently has made them not believe me, which is really not okay. There are other issues. I had tried to report to the FBI 5 times. No response. So a lot of people don't know this or had forgotten, because I don't have very many friends. My second husband isolated me from my friends and family, and I kind of fell out of touch with people. And a lot of them forgot that I have previously been on television, that I had celebrity clients when I worked as a makeup artist and hairstylist for many years. I had at the time been doing art. I had been painting. I have since destroyed all of the paintings in my possession, and I will never paint again. This has to do with, there have been people, including celebrities, watching my social media. This includes London on the Track. I have a screenshot of one of the instances that he looked at one of my stories. It was before his account was verified, but he still did. I had never heard of him before. I had a former friend who's an employee at Google force money into my hand for a painting that I had no intention of selling him. There had been celebrities that I was aware of before London watching my account, possibly from my artwork, possibly from, my prior work in the entertainment industry, I'm not sure. One of the reasons I also destroyed all the artwork is because there are more important things, and I don't ever want to make money off of other people's tragedies, and what's more important here is taking care of the issue, which is white supremacy. I don't know what's going on in my mom's church. She has continued to stalk me. Hopefully she has stopped. There was one point about 3 weeks ago, she had someone from her congregation deliver food to my house without my consent, 99% of things that I could not use. I gave it away, but that just goes to show she risked another person's life because she has to have control. But regardless, and I apologize, this is why I prefer to have a pre-written, prepared speech or have a discussion one-on-one with an individual, and it's because I have a tendency to just be all over the place. I do have ADHD, so I do apologize. Just trying to stay on track, and it can be difficult. So anyway, at one point last year, as I knew there were people watching my account, I actually removed, I had over 1,000 followers, I don't care. I removed all of them. I had been posting things knowing people were watching the account in hopes that they would help, including about how, about an individual I dated when I was 20. And I need to start off by saying that my mom works in the children's missionary with her church. And it's important to note that because this particular man that I dated when I was 20 is an individual who groomed me from childhood. I had met him when I was 9 and he was 17. We met at church through a church program. It was not, this was after moving from New Egypt, and that's why I mentioned New Egypt first, because this was after we moved to Hunterdon County. So these were all new people to my family. So I was 9 and a half when I met him. He was 17. At one of the points when we dated, he actually threatened to leave me for children whom he had met when they were 4 and 5 years old, saying that if I didn't behave myself, or just in general that he was looking forward to upgrade the model once they turned 18, which is horrifyingly disgusting. Anyway, I essentially told my mom that I recognized, one of the ways I was able to recognize the racism with her and her husband was that that particular individual had in fact been a neo-Nazi, or I guess you'd call them white power. I'm going to show some pictures in a moment, but yeah, I had been 9 and he was 17, and we stayed in touch. It was kind of one of those things, like, because he went to church, my parents were just like, oh, he's a great guy. He was not a great guy. It was an extremely abusive relationship. He's an alcoholic. He forced me to move in with him. He plied me with alcohol so that I would be compliant. He would rape me repeatedly. I know that at one point, he was still married when I first started dating him. He had been in the army and had been stationed in Germany and had a wife in Germany that refused to move to the United States. She thought he was coming back to Germany, and he wasn't. I told him that he needed to, start getting divorced, or at least stop wearing his wedding ring when we were together. So I was 20, and this man was 26, 27. Excuse me. Again, he would, he loved the fact that he looked the way he did because it allowed him control over bartenders, and he was able to convince them to buy me drinks so we could go out to the bar and he would get me drinks. I didn't know that he was a white supremacist until after I moved in with him, or he told me I had to move in with him. I didn't have a choice. This man also, I would, out of habit, just lock the bathroom door behind me, and anytime I would lock a door behind me, regardless of what door, he would pry it open and come in and stand there with me and basically say, I just want you to know, you can't hide from me. I'll always be there. I'll always pick the locks. There's no escape. He had to have all of the passwords and login information for my email accounts, for my social media. At the time it was just MySpace. And he would actually use the accounts to monitor his exes, monitor me. Excuse me. There had been one time I reached out to an ex and congratulated him just because, I was happy. He did something of note, and I think he got accepted into school, and I can't even begin to tell you the rage that my ex, his name's Eric, he was so full of rage. Eventually, he kind of forced me to make a sex tape with him. I have no idea what happened to it. None whatsoever. It could still exist. I don't know. But I know after we broke up, he eventually got remarried, and at least according to social media, she left him after 3 days, which makes me assume that he became that much more abusive after they got married. So I'm gonna jump ahead a bit. Immediately after we broke up, I had my first ex-husband reached out to me on MySpace, and I would not have dated him had it not been for Eric. And then right after I started seeing Rich, I had one of my uncles had emergency heart surgery, and then another uncle and an aunt passed away in a plane crash. Had those things not happened, I never would have married him. It was not someone I should have married. My mistake. One of the reasons I mention this is my mom, either not knowing, not realizing, not aware, gave me a laptop that should have been held as evidence in the investigation into the plane crash that happened with my aunt and uncle, because it belonged to the pilot. And I actually attempted to take this laptop to the FBI in June, but because of COVID, there was only one person in the office, and she just didn't know what to do. But one of the reasons I brought it in was because there is a possibility that my first ex-husband watched child porn on it. Now, the reason I say that is because before we dated, he had been involved with a 13 or 14-year-old girl. I learned about this before we got married. This is not privileged or protected information. He blamed it on her. Apparently they worked some deal out with the parents. She lied. That's what he told me. I don't know. I know she was 13 or 14 years old. And then there was another 14-year-old he was spending a lot of time with. He was 24. Some of his favorite porn was like young tarts, old fart stuff, and a lot of those, and like barely legal stuff, and a lot of those websites, they're not 18. People don't realize this. People lie about their age. Porn industry's been more regulated now than it was, way back when, but still people slip through the cracks. I also don't know what else he looked on it, because the laptop was given to me as a wedding gift so that I could go to school. It wasn't his. It was not a communal laptop. It was not ever meant for him. And I remember coming home from work, like the day, or after we got married, and I went back to work, and came home, and there he is looking at porn on my laptop. I had no say, none. So I don't know what he watched on it, and I took it to the FBI, because they'll have to check it out forensically. Not only was it, used in the United States, but it was also in Canada. And there had been some downloading and streaming and stuff done in Canada where the internet laws are very different. And I don't know what he did on it. But I had wanted to give the laptop to the pilot's family. Unfortunately, I don't have any way to do that right now, especially if the FBI is going to need to look into it. So, it's been a very interesting year. Still no excuse for not talking about Eric sooner, and not talking about white supremacy sooner. This is all over the place, and I apologize. Again, I prefer to get my thoughts in one place, and I apologize. But yeah, so I don't know what's been going on with my mom's church. I don't know what's been going on with Eric. He had, at one point, and I'm going to show some photos in a second, some of his friends, so I didn't know what they were for a very long time. He said he used to ply me with alcohol. One of the photos, you'll see my eyes are rolled in the back of my head. I wasn't even of legal drinking age. It's no excuse. It's no excuse. He talked about so much hate. So much hate. I wish I could have brought this up sooner. Abuse really fucks with your head. And growing up in the area I grew up in, there were a lot of people who believed in white power, which is really unfortunate and really terrifying. And so when I would try and bring these things up, when I was dating him, I was pretty much told that they weren't problems, I should be happy, all of the, this ridiculousness. I had been gaslit so much, I was just living in complete fear. Also because he was former military, he would constantly brag about what he would get away with the police, that he was friends with the cops. He would get pulled over all the time, even if he was completely shit-faced, and just throw him his military ID and they just let him go on through. He would talk about the things he had been stationed at Guantanamo Bay. Apparently would torture the prisoners. He would talk about that and brag about it. There was one time I had made him dinner and used paprika, and apparently it caused him to have a flashback, and he verbally attacked me, because how dare I? He found out that at one point I had kissed a black boy when I was 13, and he didn't speak with me for over a day. There had been one time, I don't want to talk about that. Regardless of what he did to me, I'm concerned about what he's done to other people. When we first met, he had a injury on his head, and he made it out to seem like he was attacked, but there's a possibility that it was someone acting in self-defense, from a racial slur being used. I'm not sure. So if anybody in the Easton or Allentown areas remember in, I'd say November or December 2005, hitting a guy on the top of the head. If you never had the opportunity to file a police report, or even if you did and you want to speak about it, you really should. So one of the things he used to do is he would actually use my car. He would be the one to drive. He wouldn't let me drive my own car. And then sometimes he would strand me places. And there was one night, and so I'm gonna show photo now. Let me get my computer working. So let me show you. So this is a picture of us from a wedding, and yes, I'm smiling. I was also really drunk. I had a massive migraine this night. This was not a good night for me, but this was him. And then, so this is a photo of my computer screen. I apologize. But so I am sitting on his lap. You can't really see his face. And these are two of his friends. So there you can see me. You can see exactly my eyes are rolled in the back of my head. This would have been probably January 2006, I think. But yeah, you can see him behind me. But me super drunk. This is Andrew, and this is Brett. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because they also might be recognized. I might have done something at some point. I know that Andrew actually did, at one point, kill 2 motorcyclists while driving. I do not know if alcohol was involved. I was living in Canada at the time. And I don't know what else happened. But he did, in fact, his house was on a road that kind of had like a yield. I don't know if it had to stop, but it was like a sneaky little side road that came out from this windy main road. And there were 2 motorcyclists in his truck, and that happened in 2008. That he killed the 2 motorcyclists. I don't know whatever happened. I do not believe he served any jail time. However, I don't know. But that family absolutely, should get their justice if they have not. Regardless, I remember Andrew at one point, we were at his older brother's house playing drinking games. Almost every night we would drink. Eric would force me to drink. There was one time I went to work the morning after. He forced me to drink a bottle and a gallon jug of wine because he did not want to drink alone. I was not a big fan of drinking. I very, very seldom drink now. But yeah, no, so the guys had been drinking, and Andrew said that he wanted to go N-word hunting, and jumped up from the table and ran out of the house and got in his truck and drove off. I'm mentioning this because I don't know if there had been a hate crime committed that night. I don't remember what kind of truck he had, but if anyone remembers my mother's minivan, which Eric took, it was a 2000 or 2001 red Nissan Quest minivan. This would have been somewhere in the Easton area in 2006, like 10, 11 o'clock at night, maybe a little later. He went to chase after him, and I was stranded. I wanted to call the police, but because of all of the conversations about how he would talk his way out with the police and was friends with the cops and all this and that, and being in the military, I was so terrified that it wouldn't matter, that if I had called the cops, the cops would also just not care, would side with him, and then he would kill me, on top of whatever hate crime may have been committed that night. But I hope that you guys got a good look at those faces. If anybody remembers anything, I know it's been several years and I am truly, truly sorry. Abuse fucks with people and there's absolutely no excuse whatsoever. I'm really, really sorry that I wasn't able to bring this up sooner. There had been a point when I actually almost filed a restraining order against him. And I didn't, because guns had been his life and I was concerned that he would kill me, because the police officer explained to me he would never be able to, use a gun again. And I should have filed the restraining order. I didn't. I'm so sorry. So the reason I mentioned my mom and I mentioned childhood grooming is because earlier in the year I told her that I recognized her and her husband's racism because I had dated Eric and that Eric was Nazi. And her response was, "This is not my daughter speaking. Fear is a liar. Do you want to be saved by Jesus?" I have all of this in text message. One of the terrifying things is that the acronym FEAR is false evidence appearing real. A lot of people believe that instead of the reality that fear is a natural reaction to let you know that there's something wrong and you need to figure out what to do in that situation. So people detach from reality. I then, let her know that he had groomed me as a child. Her response was, "Well, how old were you when you started dating him?" No, it doesn't matter. He had known me from 9 years old. He had befriended me at 9 years old. He had been talking to me through email the entire time. He'd threatened to leave me for kids he met when they were 4 and 5 years old. That's what childhood groomers do. That's what abusers do. He had raped me quite frequently. Again, she just didn't want anything to do with it. Her response was, "Well, I took you to the police station." Yeah, of course I'm not going to tell you what, I'm concerned for her congregation. I'm concerned for the children. A lot of the children's missionary stuff she uses, it glorifies the white conquerors. It's old material, but we have detached and dissociated from reality so much. We can't do that anymore. I was never trying to cancel someone. This is very serious. This is domestic terrorism. People don't understand that, then there's a problem. Yes, sometimes individuals turn their lives around. I know I have. I was never into what they were into. There's no excuse. I'm not even going to say anything. I'm not. But there are absolutely people who deserve their justice. And the fact that possibly no one has spoken up boggles my mind. I had posted, because I knew people were watching my Instagram, I had posted about this, and instead of the people who I knew were watching my account, apparently a bunch of 60 and 70-year-old people who knew this man were all very disturbed and very concerned, because they are that detached from reality, and I don't think any of them knew the truth behind Eric. And how you do, but we can't keep just letting things slide because no one wants to believe it, or because it's hard work, or because it seems unbelievable. Life is ridiculous sometimes, but it's life and we have to get through it, and unfortunately sometimes that means dealing with shit like this, because if we don't deal with it, it'll just keep happening, and it has to end. It has to stop. No free passes. None. And my mom doesn't realize that he drove her minivan. If he committed a crime in her minivan, she could possibly be, like, she doesn't really seem to care that she's been stalking me for a year. She may have had other people commit crimes, not even realizing that she was having other people commit crimes because she thought it was all about her. No, we need to do the right thing. Sorry, this is a tangent. I just don't know what to do anymore. I don't know what to do. I hope that someone out there hears this. I hope that someone out there watches this. Maybe shares the photos. Those are old. I know they've aged. But, you know, I grew up in a part of New Jersey that was very racist and likely still has those problems. It was only 25-30 minutes from White Township, which Oxford, New Jersey at one point had the highest percentage of KKK members in either the East Coast or like the United States. That's the type of area I grew up in. And unless we work together to end white supremacy, it's just going to continue to exist. And it does so camouflaged. It's not okay. I'm sorry that this was all over the place. If you know, obviously I don't expect people to love me. I apologize so much for not bringing this up sooner, and for not preparing something, but it seemed like more appropriate to do a video this way because I'm looking forward to one day going over every single Instagram message and every single tweet, and why I did, posted them, the meaning behind them, because there were so many people who thought they knew me that I hadn't spoken with in 3 to 8 years, reaching out to my parents not knowing what the fuck they were doing, because they didn't actually know me at all. We were just, acquaintances. That's what makes social media so dangerous. But yeah, I'm looking forward to explaining everything in court, and I wanted to show myself normal and not under duress like I was then. Other videos had been filmed while I was on medical cannabis. I'm also a very emotive individual, and a lot of photos I had posted on Instagram were while I was upset, and I'm an ugly crier. It's also on my medical cannabis. And it's funny, a lot of people would rather medicate with alcohol and Xanax, and not realize what they're doing to themselves. I have since stopped the medical cannabis because of my health issues and because I'm going to go to court at some point, whether the FBI finally pays attention, the police finally allow me to file reports, someone out there sees this and realizes that this is very serious, or someone out there sees this and recognizes the individuals in the photographs. But yeah, no, this is a very serious situation. It needs to be handled with tact, because I don't even know how many lives, especially former military members that have served with him. I don't know. I don't know other victims. It's been 14 years, 15 years almost. I'm sorry. You don't have to forgive me. I'm not asking for that. But it's never too late to talk about these things. I wish I had done it sooner. But that just goes to show when things are normalized and we dissociate and detach from reality, because that's what I had been taught. Anytime I would bring something up to my parents, their response would be, "Don't worry about it, let God take care of it." No, that's not how reality works. That's not how reality works. We have to take care of it. Thank you for watching. I'll put my contact info in the info box. That way you can, if anybody wants to reach out and not leave a comment, you can. Or if anyone happens to want to share this with their police, that would be amazing, because my local police are refusing to let me file reports, and there have been a lot of things been going on. Yeah. So, yeah, I've been trying to talk about this for a year, but I'm really sorry that I wasn't able to bring myself to make a video until now. I don't even think the police would have taken me seriously in 2006. When I went to file the restraining order, I really don't. But, see, and that's what it means. We have to take this stuff serious now. So, thank you for your time.